Welcome to mrhorrortale, where we tell scary stories that really happened. In this video, we talk about 3 scary rituals gone wrong, which you absolutely must not do. To ensure you don't miss out on other horror contents, remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Story 1. The Backrooms. Have you ever heard the stories of the Backrooms? Those endless rooms trapped in another dimension that serve as eternal labyrinths for those who make the mistake of stumbling into them. My name is Roger, and I was trapped in a backroom. But unlike almost everyone who enters, I did escape to tell the story. It all started several years ago. At that time, I was as fanatical as everyone else who had seen the backroom videos. There were many types of videos. The classic one, of the yellow office doors. Others were in more hidden and strange places, but the one that caught my attention was the grocery store backroom. In the video, the place looked like an ordinary grocery store, but with endlessly long aisles. By day, the place seemed harmless, just a maze looking to be overcome. The problem came at night. When the grocery store was on regular store hours, the lights would go out, and the monsters inside this dimension would begin to make their presence known. When I tell you that I was fanatical about the backrooms, you really have to take my words to heart. I would even say that I was obsessed with them. I wanted to enter at all costs, no matter the sacrifices I would have to make, no matter the risk of dying. I just wanted to get to know these backrooms and know that they were real. I knew everything about the backrooms. Now I just needed to be in them. And this is much easier than people think. There are several ways to get into the backrooms. Either by a glitch in the universe, entering a certain location at a certain time of the day and under certain conditions. But there was another way, and it was ridiculously simple. I just had to go to sleep and think about the backroom. Imagine that I was there and go to sleep with this thought. Obviously, this was not enough. I also had to encourage these dreams. For that, I ate a lot of chocolate before going to sleep, and I accompanied it with some sleeping pills. The last part of the ritual was to make my feet a little better, as it helped the illusion that I was in the backroom. After many nights of failure, one Tuesday night I went to sleep thinking about the grocery store backroom. When I opened my eyes, I was overjoyed when I realized that I had succeeded. The backrooms were real, and I was in them. As I looked around the area, I saw all the shelves of the grocery store were full. The place was completely full, and when I saw the aisles, I confirmed what I had been looking for. The place seemed to have no beginning and no end. I took a deep breath to confirm that this was not another dream, and I smelled the characteristic smell of wet carpet. When we dream, we don't smell. This was as real as it seemed. I was in. Now it was time to get out. I had a very clear strategy. Not to go back, to always go in the same direction, and to throw things to see if I had already passed a certain place. Motivated, I walked as far as I could, but my motivation faded as the hours went by, and my desperation began to show. Even though I did everything I could to escape, the place seemed to stretch on forever. And maybe it did. A part of me thought that somehow I was going around in circles, but I wasn't, as everything was always perfectly arranged. The place really did go on forever. I ran to the exit door to see if there was any opening, but it was useless. All the exit doors were fortified. I could see how they were covered with blood, and there were tools around them. Someone had tried to escape before. Suddenly, the lights started to go out and the place began to change. There was a different aura. Something was not right. It was already night. How long had I been here? Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted when a sound was heard for the first time in the entire grocery store. It was a kind of shriek. It was very loud and violent, and it was coming towards me. I ran desperately, and suddenly, I saw a light at the bottom of one of the gondolas. This must be it. Surely this was the exit. I ran desperately towards the source of the light, and that's when I realized. What I was seeing was not an exit, it was not a light, much less a door. It was a living being. Its body was black and large. It didn't seem to have any shape, and it was more than 3 meters tall. He had a terrifying white mask on top of his body. The mask was simple. It only made room for some human features, but what was behind it was clearly not human. The being approached me at an enormous speed. It didn't seem to be running, just crawling, standing still in the strangest, but effective way. I could only run while I cried and regretted wanting to get into a place that was not made for me. I hated how innocent I was for believing I understood the rules of a place that didn't even belong to my world. Behind me, I listened to the strange screams of the monster. Its voice sounded like a distorted radio getting closer and closer. I turned around to see how close he was, and it was worse than I thought. Not only he was a few feet away from me, but I also saw some horrendous black tentacles coming out of his body and stretching out to reach me. When I saw them, I was so scared that I got distracted and fell to the ground. The monster was already next to me. I was already his, and he knew it, so he began to approach me slowly. Its tentacles grabbed my whole body. They slowly drew me into the black mass of the monster, joining it. I could feel how its skin seemed alive, and it opened up to join me to its body. Suddenly, I simply woke up. I was in a cold hospital bed, and some doctors were in front of me. They had just given me an electroshock. My eyes began to close again, and as I did, I felt like I was going back to the back room. I didn't want to fall asleep again. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to go back if this happened again. Crying and struggling to stay awake, I blacked out once more. When I woke up, I opened my eyes, but I still couldn't see anything. My body felt wrong. Something was not right, and the only thing that calmed me down was my mother's voice, who told me that I had woken up after a long time. After several days of assimilating what had happened, I understood that I had survived for mere seconds, something I should not have survived. The fact that I was lucky does not mean that I got away with it. From that day on, I had many health issues and got sick much more often than I ever did. But the worst of all was that since that, I could never see anything again. I was blind. It was as if the universe had punished me for seeing too much, for seeing something I wasn't supposed to see. I always dream about the back room and that monster. I don't want to do it, but it's like the dreams haunt me, trying to close some unfinished business between us. Story 2. The Elevator Game. Hello, my name is Hannah. You could say I'm one of the pioneers in urban explorations, although no one ever really gave me credit for that. My YouTube channel was always specialized in horror stuff, and at the time I was pretty well known. I was very proud of my work, and I could have grown much more. If today you don't know who I am, if today my YouTube channel was deleted and my name is hardly mentioned on the platform, it's because I wanted it. I didn't want to be linked to terror anymore, never again to talk about things we don't understand, and all because of what I lived that night. That night when I realized how small I am as a human, and that there are things we shouldn't play with. My story began at the height of urban legends and creepypastas. At that time, all you could see of horror on YouTube were gameplays of popular content creators playing games like Amnesia or Slender Man. I was never good at games, but I loved horror, and I was ready to go further. I wanted to give my audience something they wouldn't forget, and that's when I learned about the elevator game. Many people who play elevator game do it in a luxurious hotel, but I didn't settle for this. Near my house, there was a hospital that until recently was under construction, but with a major change of government in my country and many economic problems that transited it, the construction was temporarily halted and the place was abandoned. But do you know what is the strangest thing about all this? The place had light, and the elevator worked. After getting into the abandoned hospital, which was obviously being watched by an uninterested security guard, I went to the elevator. I started by taking the elevator to the 2nd floor. Then I pushed the button for the 4th floor, and from there, I went back to the 2nd floor. Following the rules, I went to the 6th floor, back to the 2nd floor, and from there I went to the 10th floor. From that floor, I went back to floor 5. I was about to see the rules again, but on that floor, something strange happened. A very strange-looking woman got on the elevator with me. The woman was very tall. Her face was elongated and deformed. Possibly she had some kind of disease. Her clothes looked old-fashioned, as if they were from several years ago. But what struck me the most about her were her eyes. They were red. Was she wearing contact lenses? Before I could see the rules again, the elevator started moving again, and she went up to the 10th floor. As the elevator moved, the woman began to ask me questions. I wondered what I was doing there, where I was going. Frozen, I looked straight ahead, holding back my tears. I knew what was happening. One of the rules of the game said that if someone got on the elevator with me, don't answer her, don't even look at her. I swear I can't tell you the horror I felt in my whole body. It was as if a current of fear and pain ran through me from head to toe. The woman realized she was ignoring her, and that only made her presence in the elevator more terrifying. As if knowing that he was playing by the rules by ignoring her, she began to chuckle under her breath. That laughter was getting louder and louder, but immediately I began to feel something very strange. The laughter wasn't coming from behind me anymore. It was coming from my own head. The laughter sounded louder, louder and louder, and louder from inside my head. The elevator reached the first floor, and when the doors opened, I escaped as fast as I could. The pain in my head was too strong, and the voice kept ringing and never seemed to stop. Dizzy and full of pain, I fell to the floor, and suddenly, I felt something pull my leg with enormous violence. It was the girl from the elevator. When I could see her, something in her had changed. She no longer had eyes, nose, ears, or anything. She only had a huge mouth that covered her whole face. The woman dragged me back into the elevator with enormous violence, and when she had me there, she did nothing. The silence was absolute. It was as if she had left. Only she didn't, because I could hear her breathing behind me. That was not all. From her mouth, I could feel hot saliva dripping down the back of my neck. The woman was behind me, but she chose not to attack me. This was not a wild animal. This was a thinking being, a very sadistic and thinking being. The elevator doors closed with me inside, and it began to rise. As it did, I could feel the woman's breath behind me, closer and closer to my neck. I listened as the woman opened her mouth. I was about to die, so I closed my eyes and cried harder than ever. "Are you all right, young lady?" When I opened my eyes, there was a man behind me. This was the security guard, and he was looking at me in a confused manner. I turned around, and the woman was gone. This man probably heard the elevator going back and forth. This man unknowingly saved my life. The security guard didn't really give me any trouble. He's used to teenagers wanting to explore the hospital, but he was concerned when he heard a woman screaming inside. A few days later, I deleted all my videos from YouTube, and although they say that files are always left on the internet, I must admit that this worked for me. Eventually, people stopped talking about my channel, and years later, everyone had already forgotten about me. If you are listening to this story, don't play the elevator game for nothing. The only reason I am telling you this is to let you know that what I experienced is real. And if you don't follow my warning, you may end up in another dimension. And if you find the same being I found, no security guard will save you from what she will do to you. Story 3. Daruma San. Hey, my name is Ashley, and I always considered myself a big horror fan, but there was always something that bothered me. What if it wasn't real? I always wanted to know this, so I dedicated myself to challenging the paranormal, to prove the existence of something else. Unfortunately, I asked for more than I could handle. After spending a lifetime searching for things I wasn't supposed to see, I never thought that the worst thing that could happen was to achieve my goal, since by that very fact, I would be faced with a situation that no living being should ever have to face. It all happened on a Friday night. Daruma San can be played anywhere, but I decided to play it in an abandoned house in my neighborhood. The place was not destroyed or vandalized, since we were in a gated community. The owner simply left and never came back, but he still pays the bills, so there still was water and electricity. Once I got there, I turned off all the lights in the house and immediately started playing. I admit that I was a little scared anyway, so I took my dog and left him in the backyard with food. The first thing I did was fill the bathtub with water and lie down in it. As the game says, I began to wash my hair with my eyes closed, completing the ritual with what I had to say. Daruma San fell down. 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 As soon as I finished washing my hair, it all started. Suddenly, I felt like somebody was behind me, watching me. The rules of the game said that I couldn't turn around and that I couldn't open my eyes no matter what. At that moment, I had no choice but to hold my curiosity and keep playing. Why did you fall in the bathtub? After this question, the terrifying atmosphere around me became denser than ever. I was shivering at the thought of staying one more second in this bathtub. Luckily, the game was over, at least for tonight. I went to sleep without turning on any lights. The real game was going to start as soon as I woke in the next day. Once I woke up, I looked at myself in the mirror, somewhat asleep. As I gradually woke up, I remembered what I had done the night before. In case you don't know, Daruma San is not about inviting a spirit into your bathtub. No. Daruma San consists of summoning a spirit that during the next day will do everything possible to kill you. I started to feel the same thing I had felt the night before when I was in the bathtub. It was as if something was behind me, watching me, looking for the right moment to hurt me. According to the game, I was supposed to continue my normal routine that I would do any day. But this wasn't just any day. I was on vacation from my job, inside an abandoned house with my dog. What could I make of my routine? Take him for a walk. Buy me something to eat. I couldn't do anything normal. Bored, I laid down on the couch. All the tension I was feeling soon began to fade as I saw no one. Within minutes, I fell asleep. In those few minutes I slept, I had a terrible nightmare. The face of Daruma San was very close to mine, like playing with me, like a continuation from the dream. As soon as I woke, something had changed. The house felt different. Although it was still sunny outside, it was still very cold. I felt a heavy, oppressive atmosphere that wouldn't let me breathe. It was as if this spirit was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Somewhat confused, I stood up disoriented, trying not to fall. I immediately realized that I had to finish the game as soon as possible. Otherwise, the spirit would kill me. I tried as hard as I could to remember the rules, but everything was a blur. I couldn't think. Was this a coincidence? Was it because I was nervous? Or maybe something was doing this to me? I made every effort to remember the rules of the game. At that point, I knew some things were going to happen. Daruma San was going to appear behind me, and as soon as he did, I had to say "Kidda" to make her go away. Otherwise, she would stay until she killed me. I was very nervous, regretting playing this game, and thinking that I might die that night. But somehow I managed to stay calm and use logic to survive. I stood against the wall. She couldn't attack me if I saw her. The air was getting heavy again. She was ready to attack me for sure. But how could she do that? She couldn't attack me head-on. To my surprise, Daruma San appeared in front of me without any concealment at all. Her very presence chilled my blood. She was very difficult to see, as she was covered by a mist that hid a large part of her body. Her hair was black, and her skin was white and intense. She looked dead, and indeed she was. She approached slowly, floating and distorting with every centimeter she advanced. I tried to say "Kidda," but I couldn't. It was like my throat suddenly closed, and I was unable to say any word. This was not nerves. I felt something that did not allow me to speak. I could feel a lump in it, I was choking. As I struggled to breathe, Daruma slowly approached me. With every inch he took, the atmosphere became heavier, and I found it harder and harder to breathe. My vision was getting blurry. I was about to faint. Maybe this was for the best. I would rather have lost consciousness before Daruma San caught me. My eyes started to close until suddenly, I heard something. My dog. He was barking at Daruma San. Slowly and indifferently, I could see Daruma San turn her eyes to the dog. She was about to look at me again, but during that second, I realized something. I could breathe again. I said the word "Kita" as fast as possible. In response, the ghost just looked at me. After a few seconds, she faded. I had made it. Daruma San was gone. I won the game. In shock, I fell to the floor and began to cry. From that day on, I never again risked provoking the paranormal. I started watching horror movies and playing video games. Sometimes, some friends tell me to go on urban explorations, but I always say no. I don't need to go looking for ghosts anymore. I've seen more than I was willing to see in a lifetime. Thanks for watching. If you like the stories, remember to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any other true disturbing stories. See you next video.